Hello and greetings everyone. Today I want to talk about another Star Wars topic, one that is on the heart of many fans and explains a lot of things, I think, and it is controversial and difficult. So I hope that we can go with this without censorship or anything and just enjoy to talk about a difficult topic. Now, I will do a video why Star Wars is timeless and stuff and how important it actually is for the real world. But today I want to speak about the failure of Star Wars, and that's beginning and ending with Disney, really. Um, the main problem is that Star Wars didn't need to be modernized or updated for a modern audience or wokified or whatever. In fact, that's the very thing with classical stories. I'll just give you a little bit of my background. I have went to business school. I know how to run companies, how to sell products, how to make products, how to price products, all of that stuff. And there is a few things that one has to keep in mind when producing something. First thing is who you are producing your product for, because producing niche products is perfectly fine. Actually, some of the most successful companies in the world you never heard of because they produce for a very, very, very narrow clientele, but because they are the only providers of this material in the world. Like there's a company that makes cogs specifically for some heavy duty machinery, and they're the only cog producing company in the entire world that makes these. So everyone has to buy from them and everyone's willing to pay their prices because they are absolutely dependent on it. They sell to, I don't know, maybe 20 people in the world, but that's enough to run the company. You have so many businesses that do really, really well with a niche, and that's totally fine. You don't need to have a product that appeals to the entire planet in order to succeed. Indeed, it turns out that when you go into the entertainment sector, that's about the dumbest thing you can do, as many companies found out recently, whether it be video game companies or movie companies. Basically, in entertainment, the more you want to reach every single person, the more you're scaring every single person away. It's like, I don't know what to compare it to. If you want to be entertained, you need something that resonates with you. And if you put just everything in there, it's first of all overwhelming, and secondly, you're more likely to be put off by things that you don't like. And it's again okay to not have every single person on the planet as your customer. Not every single person in the world likes, say, Lord of the Rings or something. That's totally fine. It's still a massively successful franchise. The two things that are very, very true in business school are the customer is king and the customer is always right, even if you don't think so. And I know that in modern day business, a lot of people say, the customer is not always right, and sometimes you know better. No, you don't, because ultimately you are dependent on the customer and their money. And it doesn't matter what you think your product is good for or what you think people want. What's important is that you make sales. There is a lot of products that were invented for an entirely different purpose, and people buy it for something that the original creators of the product didn't imagine or didn't want to cater to, or wasn't their original idea. Yet the product sells and they just go with it. If they're successful, they go with the flow and produce for the customer. If they go down and go under, it's because they try to force the use of the product they invented in their mind on the customer, and then the customers just walk away. It's if you create something, the important thing is to have an audience and have an idea of whom you're catering to, and that audience should be large enough for your business to sustain it. Now, if you're running a very low cost business, you don't need a lot of customers. If you're a personal trainer, as example, you might be able to make a living with just 10 customers. You don't need the entire world to be your customer. That's totally fine. However, if you're in the entertainment sector, making a living requires to reach a certain audience and be reasonably big. You don't need to be huge. You don't need huge money to do it. Blair Witch Project still is, I think, the most profitable movie ever made, because not because they reached such a wide audience or it was a brilliant movie. No, it was because the production cost was really, really low, and that's why it's so profitable. Some of the highest grossing movies reached a large audience because they were niche products done well. And in the case of many video games, they were originally produced for a small fraction of gamers, and they became super successful. Like Elden Ring is a very successful game that's played by a lot of people, and it was originally produced for a very tiny base of the gaming industry. Hardcore players that like frustration and having their balls kicked in. Like Elden Ring, the entire Souls franchise is built about frustrating the player, and there's a small fraction of people who are actually into that, but a lot of people play it because it was so good. And that goes for other products as well. If your product is good enough, it will go way beyond the original intended audience, because good products sell, and that's really what you have to care about. There is certain ways to improve the mass of your audience, the reach that you have, without changing the product. Marketing is one way, expanding to more media or to more channels of distribution is another way to do it, and you always have to keep in mind that you have to make your core customers happy. Rest will follow. Do you know that what we know as Chinese food didn't originate in China but in America, and that some US Americans made that in America? If you know doner kebab, that was not invented in Turkey, that was invented in Germany. It seems that those are cultural foods of a certain region, but they didn't know that stuff because, well, it's not the original thing. It was produced for people who think that's the authentic thing but wouldn't eat the actual authentic thing, basically. Strange concept, worked like a charm, just like so many other things. So what I'm trying to tell you is that Star Wars was originally produced by George Lucas, in special with teenage boys in mind. That was his target audience, and he told the story so well that it got way larger than his intended audience. The parents liked it, their parents liked it, the children of those then teenage boys, when they became adults and had children, their children liked it, the children of their children liked it, the children of the children of the children liked it. You have about 6 generations now that are into Star Wars, the proper Star Wars, I should say, and that's the really cool thing. It's a timeless classic. One of the most niche products made in entertainment was Lord of the Rings. That was, if you read the original books, they were kind of badly written and kind of boring. They didn't reach many people. Not many people were into fantasy back when Tolkien was alive. It reached its huge audience after a faithful adaptation from Peter Jackson, when he faithfully adapted the book stuff into a trilogy movie, and that made Lord of the Rings explode and really huge. Like, before it was just for nerds, after that it was for everyone basically, and it gained a large audience. It lost that audience when Amazon ham-fisted things into Lord of the Rings that weren't Lord of the Rings. Like, it really took a nosedive the very moment they let writers make their own stories with Tolkien's characters in Tolkien's setting that are not faithful adaptations of what Tolkien made, but are completely new inventions that nobody wanted. That can be said about other franchises too. Say Dragon Age, the video game franchise, went brilliantly as long as they stayed true to the original idea and spirit of the game. Took a nosedive when new writers just were let loose on it and wokify it. There were many franchises, like Mass Effect took a nosedive when they started to wokify it. I mean, go woke, go broke is a meme for a reason. It happens all the freaking time to so many franchises, even World of Warcraft. And you see that time and time again. The moment you stray too much from the source material, and I'm not saying the literal interpretation, but the spirit of it, then you lose your audience, because now it's something else. It's like opening up a Italian restaurant that people love and like and flock to, and then you release new and more Italian dishes, and more customers come because they like these new dishes. And then all of a sudden you decide, no, we now only do French food, and then you go bankrupt and have to close. Why is that? Maybe because you can't cook French food, or probably because people wanted Italian food, not French food. So same thing with entertainment. People are looking for something in certain entertainment, usually escapism, and if you stop providing that, people will go away, because they go there for a specific reason, and if they don't get it, they leave. I mean, there's many examples that I might not be able to mention on YouTube, but corn as example. Imagine you're looking for corn, and then all you get is I don't know, an action movie with a little romance. That's not what you wanted. You walk away from that because, well, you didn't get what you were there for. Same with the food places. So it's really about catering to your audience. Now, Star Wars was ever since it started a pretty commonly widespread liked franchise. It was huge. It wasn't just for the nerds like Lord of the Rings. It wasn't just for the geeks like Star Trek. It had its audience that was large, again, across generations. It had this big audience because Star Wars told timeless stories. And timeless stories are timeless because they have things in it that resonate with everyone, no matter what age they are, no matter where they grew up in. Like Star Wars was successful across the globe, not just in the West. It was successful in Asia, it was successful in Africa, it was successful pretty much everywhere, because the themes resonated with people. You have stories like, say, the Odyssey that have been told for thousands of years, and it's still good because the original material is timeless, and that's what Star Wars used to be. Star Wars had characters that everyone was in a similar position to, say, Luke or Leia, in some form in their life. In some way they can relate to it. No matter what skin color or sex or whatever they are, doesn't matter. And the thing about Star Wars is that it aimed its target audience specifically and just made a good product, and that's why when it became so successful. Originally it was all about Luke being basically a teenager growing up. How many stories like that do we have? And a whole Leia thing, I mean, I can go deeper into that later, but Star Wars was very well received and loved by men, by women, by people of all races, nationalities, whatever, cultures, you name it. People liked it because it was well made and had this timeless touch to it. And that goes for other products as well. Now, some were more niche products like the comics and the books. Video games was a niche in gaming and exploded, got super huge. By this time, the video game section of Star Wars is bigger than any other sector of Star Wars, like the books, the movies, the TV shows, because the games had better writing quality. And I think two deadliest things that happened to Star Wars were two sentences that both were uttered by Kathleen Kennedy. The first one was, oh well, we didn't have anything to adapt and had to make up our own stuff from scratch, which is a total lie, because you had 5 decades of continuous world building by multiple companies and dozens of writers. You have more material for Star Wars than for any other franchise I'm aware of, and then she just stands and says, oh, we didn't have anything to adapt. Yeah, really? Because you could have adapted so many stories to the screen. And the hilarious thing is that the fans did. Now we have fan movies for the Darth Bane trilogy, we have fan animated series about the KOTOR games, we have fan-made AI videos about the Old Republic games, we have a cartoon of the ancient Sith era, we have people animating the comics with AI. there's so much to adapt and so many things that were beloved and really cool and really should have been put on screen. And the other was that the Force is female because first of all, no, it's not. It's a genderless cosmic power, and it has a female avatar, but it also has a male avatar. And I don't get why you would say that, in special as they act like there haven't been any strong female characters in Star Wars, when some of the strongest female characters ever in the history of movies was already there in the original trilogy. Have you seen Leia? She has a way better aim than Han or Luke. She is the intellectual powerhouse of the three. She is the one commanding the entire Rebel Alliance and their armies. She is basically the queen of Star Wars. She freed herself on multiple occasions. Yeah, sure, sometimes she needed help, but so did Han, so did Luke, and Leia was often there to rescue them. Leia is absolutely badass. She wasn't a Jedi or something, but she was definitely mentally the strongest of the trio. And she's by far not the only strong female character. Do you know Mon Mothma, the military leader of the Alliance forces? Probably not. Have you heard of Mara Jade, who is one of the strongest female lightsaber fighters in the galaxy? Have you heard of, say, Darth Sana, who was a super powerful Force sorceress? Have you heard of Mother Talzin, who was literally the divine-like queen of her planet? What about Padme, who ruled a planet and was a big voice in the Senate and also pretty smart? What about Ahsoka, who defeated opponents that were too strong for most Jedi? What about Satil Shan, who might have been the strongest Jedi to ever be shown in media? As far as I'm aware, at least, she's super powerful, and she became. We know her story from Padawan to Grand Master. Have you known Bastille, like in KOTOR 1? Do you know that woman? She's super powerful. Do you know who the wisest, most knowledge on the Force person in all of Star Wars is? Darth Traya, another female. We have so many fantastic characters there. Do you know the first Empress of the Empire? Yeah, that's a woman too. I mean, yeah, kinda, but you know where I'm getting at. It's not that Star Wars lacked strong female characters. They had super powerful ones. They had all kinds of like just normal. Same for races. You have black people in Star Wars, always had, from Lando Calrissian to all kinds of characters in the games and the books. It didn't matter. It had alien species galore in all kinds of colors. It had, I mean, I don't want to go into that territory, but it had that too. Star Wars always had these things, but they were natural. They were not forced into it, and they were not highlighted. It was just a normal, common sense world with weaklings of both sexes and strong people of both sexes, with slaves of both sexes and masters of both sexes. It's just normal, That was totally fine. And when Star Wars went the I think the probably worst thing Disney did was turn the absolute badass Night Sister of Dathomir into a lesbian witch coven. Like that, oh my god, how hard can you fail? Just saying, how if you think they derailed Luke's character, yeah, they did worse to the Night Sisters of Dathomir by far. You have so many cool things happening in Star Wars, you really didn't need to change anything. More importantly, the moment Star Wars nosedived is when they did what so many other companies did as well, and let writers insert themselves and their woke ideas and shit on the customer with no reins to hold them back, and do whatever they wanted inside the Star Wars frame universe and with the Star Wars characters. I don't know how you run a company like that. How can you have the most valuable franchise on the planet that produces merch and theme parks and comic books and movies and games and TV shows and so many more things in the hands of interns, basically, like people who don't know what they're doing. Why didn't you hire veterans who really know Star Wars inside and out and are accomplished writers like you did in the past, by the way? That used to be the company policy before Disney acquired. I don't know how you can run things into the ground like that. I generally don't get why you would do that and how you can even be that level of incompetent. Even if you tried to make Star Wars nosedive, I don't think you could do a better job than Disney. Now, what I want to get at is that Star Wars really can be saved, and many fans just choose to ignore Disney and whatever they produce. Though in Disney's defense, Rogue One was okay, Maul was okay, Ahsoka was okay, though I have to say they used to be so much better, these products, and okay is not gonna cut it. It used to be greatness. Again, it's a franchise that ran strong across various forms of media across the planet for 5 decades. How you can mess that up, I don't know. Luckily, a lot of fans just go and give the fan projects credit now. Fan projects are sprouting like wildfire, like they just keep going. Now with AI, when you don't need actual actors and sets, there's so many things that are adapted right now by fans because Disney refused to adapt that. And if you watched my What You Missed Out On series, I think you realize how much material there was, great material there was, better than the original movies material there was in Star Wars to adapt. And if you had just had someone faithfully adapted, you would have still be super strong and going. And I don't even know where to end this video right now, because there is so many things that went wrong and awry, and so needlessly too. Star Wars used to cater to people who had a dream of the future, basically. Well, not that's more Star Trek. Star Wars was really for everyone because it didn't exclude everyone. That's, I think, the better way to go there. It didn't piss anyone off. It didn't shoo anyone away. It didn't say that they didn't want someone as their customer. They just did their thing, and people flocked to it because it was a high quality product. It didn't need to cater to women. It had women loving this show. My wife grew up with this. Her youth was saved, her life was saved by Star Wars because it gave her hope in her darkest times. We have people like that Star Wars girl, Anna, whose entire career choice, whose entire life was so heavily influenced by Star Wars that Star Wars became her life. We have people making real world religions out of Star Wars, which is not a topic, but there's people that actually believe the Force is a real thing, and that is a officially acknowledged religion across nations. Like, this is some next level. What franchise do you know that gave birth to legit religions? I don't know of any other. How many franchises do you know that stayed strong for 5 decades? I don't know any. Do you know any franchise that has influenced 6 generations or more in a positive way? Well, okay, some classics of Greek mythology and Shakespeare probably, but franchise as in Star Wars franchise, I don't know. Doesn't come to my mind really. And that's also why we can't have Star Wars die, because there's just so much more to do with this, so much more to explore, so much more to help people with, to give them guidance in a tough time. If you know the Sith Mastery YouTube channel, that's an entire channel dedicated on the philosophy of the Sith to help people bettering themselves and become a better version of themselves, to overcome difficult times, to not give up and continuously work to have a better life. You have channels that use Star Wars philosophies to teach you on how to be a better dad or a better mom, or how to raise children properly, or how to get into spirituality and stuff like that. That's all things that exist based on Star Wars, which is kind of fun because Star Wars is based in turn on real life religions and philosophies. But Star Wars is just more fun than reading, say, Freud and Jung and all those kind of guys, or Socrates and whatnot. And it's definitely more fun than Zen Buddhism. So even though that's the basis of the Jedi, basically, but it's just reaching so many more people. And given how Star Wars works, I did another video on that one. You can set anything inside the Star Wars universe and it works. And you really need to stop catering to small, tiny niches that weren't interested in your product in the first place. What you have to cater to is your fans that you already have. Make stuff that the fans like. Make stuff that made people love Star Wars for 5 decades. Do that and you will be successful. If you stray from that, you may go bankrupt and have to close everything down because you run out of money, because people walk away. And that would be such a shame, not for Disney. I don't care about the company. For all I care, they can go broke. I don't care. I'm worried and sad about all the people whose lives could be bettered by Star Wars and now are missing out on it. People that commit suicide because they didn't know the Star Wars equivalent could have helped them through their hardships. We have people who have doubts about themselves, who go through psychological issues, when in the past Star Wars was there for some of these people and helped them. Every single one that's not getting the help from any place, and for some Star Wars was really the last line and the last hook that they had to cling to, as did other franchises as well. This is not an exclusive Star Wars phenomenon, but Star Wars reached so many people on a deep level and helped them through really difficult times in their lives. And that one greedy company just throws all of that away and spits in their faces is insane to me. In special, why don't you just cater to your audience and continue doing what you did? And that's the next thing. Hollywood faces big troubles right now. In special Star Wars stars, there is highly valued writers that don't want to touch Star Wars with a 10-foot pole because they fear that it might ruin their careers if they are associated with Star Wars. It used to be the other way around, where high quality writers flocked to Star Wars and wanted to write for Star Wars because it would improve their careers. Now it's the other way around. How did that happen? And more importantly, Hollywood doesn't even have that many high value writers anymore, because with diversity hires and policies to not hire white people and stuff like that, they drove off a vast majority of their writers who now do their own projects or moved on to Asia and now write brilliant stuff there. There aren't that many people left in Hollywood who even can produce good work. So you're kind of stuck with the intern level bad writers, and you can't trust them to do their own thing. What they could do is what Peter Jackson did: take the original material from the 90s, from the early 2000s, from the late 80s, and adapt that faithfully to the screen. That would work brilliant even with interns, because all they have to do is stick to the script. And as long as you make them stick to the script, it will work out just fine. I really hope Star Wars has a bright future ahead of itself, and I will definitely continue to fight to make it that way. There is right now a revival of Star Wars because so many fans, now with the help of AI, create movies and shows and animated series and music and so much more that is brilliant, good quality Star Wars, made by adaptation, even original content that is really good, way better than everything we got from Disney, made by fans. And that's becoming really popular. And if Disney refuses to deliver good quality products, other people will. Because Star Wars is not Disney, and it's way bigger than George Lucas, and it can go on beyond that, and I believe in that. And I think that Star Wars: The Old Republic, the MMO, has some of the best writing in all of gaming, and I think more and more people, recently more and more people coming back to play that. The Galaxy's server, the old MMO, is seeing a large increase in people coming to it, because Star Wars is on the rise again, not because of Disney but despite Disney, because now the fans have the power to continue what Disney should have continued. And the one advice that I'd give Disney is to stop whatever you're doing and start adapting the material that is already there. You can't go wrong with that, because people already loved it. And no, you don't need to modernize anything or update it for a younger audience. First of all, business again, your younger audience is laughably small, because we are having issues with population growth. So the main base that you have are the boomers, are the millennials, are the Gen Xers, because those are still relatively, like, did you know that in the town I live, 70% of the inhabitants are aged 60 and above. 20% are aged in the category of 30 to 60, and only 10% are 30 and younger, and that's a trend that's nationwide, and not as bad, but it's there. So the vast majority of your consumers are the old people, and more importantly, the old people are the ones buying the merch because they have money that they can spend. If you are a young person right now, you're probably pretty broke, and that's not your fault. That's not on you. That's the system. That's literally not your fault. You are probably working harder than any generation before you. It's just that with how the system works, you're really screwed right now. And I don't blame it on you, but for Disney and for businesses in general, that means that you need to cater to the older generations, because they have the money. The young ones, even if they wanted to buy a product, probably can't afford to. And that's why merch is still selling mostly to older people, older generations, because the young ones just don't have the money to spend. And that sucks, but that's how things are. And if you are Disney, that means you should cater to the audiences that have money and are big, like boomers, Gen Xers, and to a degree millennials, not so much Gen Z, and definitely not Gen Alpha. By the way, I think you lost Gen Alpha by now. Gen Z has the advantage that they still know good Star Wars from the Rebels TV show and the Clone Wars TV show. The Gen Alphas probably only grow up with Disney Star Wars, and that's so bad. If you're Gen Alpha, please give all the Star Wars products a try. You will love it, I promise, because many generations before you did. And there's no reason why you shouldn't enjoy that either. Just stay away from the wrong products, basically. With that said, I think Disney could do a turnaround, like it's theoretically possible. I'm concerned that they might not be able to do it practically, because I think in order to do a real 180, they'd have to drop everything that they did in the last 10 years and just sweep it under the rug, fire like 50% of their workforce, and try to hire some quality writers, which again is going to be a real pain, and you'd have to invest so much more money to save the franchise than to bury it. So I don't know. If Disney doesn't want to do that, maybe they can sell it to Warner Brothers. At this point, I hope they sell it to South Korea or China or India, for all I care, as long as we get proper Star Wars again. Don't care. Would be better if the West kept it, but please move on with it. Like, just give us proper Star Wars again. That's my ranty message for today. Thanks for being here, and have a nice day. May the Force be with you.